empowered to live the life of your dreams. And speaking of dreams, I'm telling you, my armpits were sweating just a little bit ago until I just see this beautiful man show up on my screen. I'm excited to see him and excited to do the show with you. I wanted you to know that at any time you can call 407-373-5959. Call or text 407-373-5959, and we can answer any questions that you have. Also, we're giving away two $20 gift cards from Native Sun. So the first two people to text or call 407-373-5959 will get a free copy, a free gift card, a $20 gift card to help you restock your pantry because of the hurricane. That's Native Sun. And I am so grateful that they are partnering with the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. Now, today, we have none other than my spiritual guru and funny guy, JP Sears, who I'm just so thrilled to see his face on the other side. This is the first time that we've done Zoom together. I've been on doing our show, recording it so that it'll be on YouTube later on. And so JP has a way of touching my spirit, my soul, and making me think, and at the same time say something so humorous that will make me bend over and laugh out loud. You will find him at Awaken with JP. He has the ultra spiritual brand and is just an incredible man, inside and out, by the way. And today we are talking about the rebirth of you, how to rebirth yourself. I don't know how we're going to do this, but JP is going to come up with a way that we're going to not only think about how do we rebirth ourselves, but also want to do it. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that JP Sears is back to do just that. Welcome, JP, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Yay, Lily. Thank you for having me on, sister. I'm glad to be on board with you. And exciting adrenaline rush, armpit sweating on my end too. A little logistical, technical connection issue. But yeah, so good to be speaking with you today.
Yes, and it's nice to see your handsome
sweating.
You what? I'm sorry?
My armpit chakras are done sweating.
My armpit chakras are still sweating. I'm telling you. I'm talking to Brian before the show saying, it's not like JP. And I decided I was going to text you, and you were in a different location. You're always good to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, always on time, and I knew something was up. Yeah. And as we were starting the show, you were getting on. I saw you show up, and I'm like, oh, I can just relax right now because it's always a wonderful day. It's always the best day ever when JP Sears is on. So share a little bit about your background, JP, and what led you to this awakening of your life.
Yeah, my professional background for the past 16 years, I've done emotional healing, client coaching, and classes, retreats, workshops around the world. And then the past, 3 years of that, 3 years, I've been doing also comedy videos, which my Ultra Spiritual Life series, which have been very good to me, and they've taken on a life of their own. So going back to how I got into my awakening journey originally, which I do think it's a journey. I don't think I'm awake. I lived a life of disconnection, being addicted to feelings of safety, avoiding risk, which meant, wow, I'm also avoiding joy. I'm also avoiding meaningful things of life that can actually bring fulfillment. I think the meaningful things in life are typically outside of our comfort zone. At least a lot of them are. Yes. So being a comfort addict, and part of my comfort addiction was being severely disconnected from my own emotions, meant, wow, I'm missing out on the joys, the thrills, the experiential side of life that can leave me fulfilled. So Yeah, I became the blind man stumbling along, looking to help wake myself up and find more of a feeling of joy and meaningfulness in life.
And now you're doing it for millions of people. I remember, not to take any credit for this, but when we first started doing shows, you were like at 25,000 followers. Now you're almost at 2 million. I would like to be a part of that. I could like to say that I was, but you've done a great job doing it on your own, let me tell you.
There is a 100% correlation with you coming into my life and all those followers coming into my life.
And I'd like for you to continue thinking that. And we're going to continue our conversation with JP Sears when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. I can breathe now. So sorry about the misunderstanding. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got a stand-up comedy tour starting end of November. It'll be a 3-show test tour, and the management team will kind of like take the business side of that and then figure out what we should do for a more full-on tour. So yeah, I would call it a combination of stand-up comedy and stand-up authenticity. It's really me being me on stage. I don't necessarily want to fit into just the box of stand-up comedy, though that's an awesome box. Yeah. I want that and like more.
I'm excited about that. You know, we are recording. Oh, we're about to come back. We're going to record between the air. That way people will tune in and get more JP. You can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you. And as always, it's always time to dance.
You can text Lillian I want to see you or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. And today's teacher is none other than JP Sears. He's been a great friend of the show for probably 2 years now. And in the last 2 years, we have seen him grow. You can find him at Awaken with JP. You can find his YouTube channel, which, by the way, just be prepared. Just bring something to wipe your nose with or your mouth or because he is hilarious. His alter ego is just, if you see him with a little green bow on his sachet or sash on his head, you know that he's doing the ultra spiritual guy, and he is so awake. Even he's wearing a shirt. Oh, I love it. Okay, I love your shirt. I'm not going to repeat it on the air.
Woke as a friend.
As a friend, I love it. Woke AF. I love it. JP, you're an amazing guy. So today we're going to be talking about the ReBirth. But I want you to know, my listening friend, that you can also watch this video on YouTube, and you can hear our conversations between what happens off the air most of the time. Or else, if JP has to go to the bathroom, we'll go ahead and pause it. So JP, so last time we were together, we talked about our conversation for this month. And you mentioned the rebirth of self. Is this something that has happened to you lately with this new relationship that you're in? That congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. About a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, I proposed to my beautiful lady, Amber, in Montana. And just to pretend like we're on track with the topic, Lily, yes, it was a rebirth of self. Okay, now I'll get off track, but we're on track. So it was beautiful. I'll get to maybe a punchline too. We were in Montana. We were both facilitators at a beautiful retreat just outside of Glacier National Park. We just ended a conscious relationship workshop. We were co-teaching together, and I asked her, "Okay, anything else to say to everybody?" And she was complete. And I said, "Well, I've got one more thing I want to ask." And she thought I was going to like ask everybody.
Oh my God, JP, no way. You didn't do that.
Then I asked her to marry me. And it was beautiful because a lot of the people in attendance are our very close friends. And it was such a heart connecting experience the previous days before I proposed. And I've definitely used the term, it was a rite of passage for me. And I think a rite of passage is incredibly synonymous with a rebirth of self. And how I tend to know I'm going through a rebirth of self is like I might be shaking. Like I was shaking when I proposed. My lips were quivering, and it wasn't like a nervousness. Is she going to say no? It was just like my heart is bursting with energy. There is something new coming through me.
Yeah.
It's like no woman's ever given birth and remained stoic and still. It's like, no, there's a lot of movement that happens when there's a birth. So I think most of us, most of the time, it's going to be emotional movement. So I was feeling that. And I think a synonymous part of rebirth that happens along with like what's new coming through us. And here I am, I'm stepping into a new part of my life, a new commitment. Like I still don't have a full meaning of what does it mean to get married to Amber. And it's something that we can probably talk about for the rest of our lives. But the synergistic component that I wanted to get at of a rebirth, in my opinion, means we're also letting what was die. It's like when someone's being born, what realm are they holding a funeral for that being? You know, we think, oh, the baby's being born well, yeah. And in maybe some other realm, there's a funeral held for that being because it left. And so there was, just to sound a little cliche, who I was. Some of my self-identity was being put to rest in that very moment. So I think there's this, at least when I proposed to Amber, and I think it's pretty archetypal of many rebirth experiences, there's this simultaneous grief of losing what was, stepping away from the familiar, and this simultaneous excitement, sometimes fear, of stepping into what is now. I would say what is to be, but I want to be a little more on Eckhart Tolle's like happy list and say what is now. So like we let go of the scar tissue of our old self so that the newness can arise.
You know, it's interesting. And I have said this to my children. I've said this to my nieces and everybody that will listen. When you know you're with the person that you're meant to be with, you know. There's no doubt. There's no, is this the one? Could this be the one? Yeah. There's no trying to fit the square peg in the round hole. You know that this is the person. And I didn't know that, JP, until I met my husband, my husband, Robert. Yeah. I was married before, and I've shared that. I'm not ashamed of that. It produced 2 beautiful kids, and I'm very glad that happened in my life because it was a great learning lesson, a growth opportunity for myself. But before I walked down that aisle, I knew it wasn't right. I knew it with every cell in my body, but yet I didn't have the tools that I have today. And that's why when my daughter walked down the aisle in the 1 year that we were preparing for that moment, I said to her, no matter what happens, if you have a change of heart, that moment that you're about to walk down that aisle, if you have a change of heart, like I told my dad, Daddy, I don't think I can let go. Yeah. And my dad said, oh, I don't think I can let go either, Lily. And then he pushed me down the aisle with roller skates. I mean, he could not get rid of me fast enough. But yet, here I am with my daughter. I don't want her to experience that. I want to spare her. But again, we all learn from our experience. I can't spare anybody anything. And so I knew without a doubt. And I remember my dad walking me down the aisle with Robert. And I said, I think I can let go now, Daddy.
Yeah, wow.
You know, you just know that. And I'm so happy for you, JP, because, you know, we've had our private conversations. This one is being recorded. And we've had our private conversation. I know this is huge for you.
Yeah, it is huge. And I mean, our topic today is just like super synchronistic. It is a rebirth, and that's what makes it absolutely exciting. And like I'm going to just own my experience now instead of pretending like I'm teaching to a bunch of people. I was like, let me just be real and talk about me for a second. Some of who I thought I was going to be, not only like who I was is being put to rest, but also like the imagination projection of who I thought I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like for most of my adult life, I thought, well, I'll be a single guy. I might have a partner, but it will keep it simple and, not get married and screw the system. They just want people to get married. It's a legal thing.
Stick it to the man. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't mean anything to the heart. So that's kind of like who I thought I was going to be. Yet as I kind of step into my bloom, I realize, no, like I could essentially betray who I am in order to try to be this person of who I want to be, who I thought I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So nonetheless, even who I thought I was, like there's a funeral for that person as I honor and have this new version of me born. And I dare say it's almost like any kind of beautiful flower that's blossoming. Who the flower was going to be, it's been in the seed all this time. Who the flower thought it was going to be was just a delusional aspect of the flower's weird monkey mind like we have. So out comes the truth of who the flower is. And I find the more we can surrender to letting our I'll sound cliche, but letting our true self be born rather than resist it, the more our birthing process is graceful. But we all know, I mean, people can go through tremendous pain giving birth, literally so obviously with children, and I think even more pain resisting what wants to be born through them. So I always like to look at the shadow side of life. One, probably because I'm just, sick in the head. But the other reason, I think there's so much to learn from the shadow side. When we have pain happening in our life, reoccurring patterns of issues, self-sabotage, many versions of pain. But when we have that pain in life, I think we can become the curious student of that.
Absolutely.
And I know there's infinite variations of what pain can be and the story behind it. But I'm curious about the commonality of the story under the story, what's causing the pain, no matter how it's showing up. And I think a beautiful place for a lot of us to look at when we're noticing this pain in our life is look at, what am I resisting? What if this is actually a birthing pain? And psychologically, at some level, I'm resisting what wants to be born through me. And that might be I'm resisting a change, and therefore I'm resisting the new me. So I'm not letting the birth canal open. And of course it's going to be painful.
Well, you keep yourself from the life that could be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons we do that is we love to play it small. It's just kind of like the baby inside the mother after 9 months. If it said, this womb, it's become familiar to me.
It's too comfortable. Yeah, I think I'm going to stay.
I'm going to stay. So I'll stay here I'll renew my lease for another year. So now the fetus inside is, it's 21 months old, if my math is right. And it is really playing it small because it's comfortable. The idea of playing it big, letting itself be born into something new, that's scary because we don't know what's on the other side of the birth canal. We call it a rebirth for a reason, because there's an unknown that we're being born into. And just riding the wave of this rebirthing metaphor, I believe that we are the mother and we are the infant. We are both. We are the one who can try to resist and keep the baby inside, and we can be the baby consciousness inside too that clings to the familiar. No matter how much a force of nature is trying to push us through a birth canal, we'll just wear ourselves out, drive ourselves crazy, trying to hold on to what was, because the womb of what was, it's served me well. Served me super well. But I always have to remind myself, what served me well will eventually disserve me. if I stay attached to it.
So powerful, those words. It is so true. And I hope that those of you who are listening get the image that JP is bringing forth, because so many of us are in dis-ease of what is. And if we allow what is to be, and somehow embrace that isness of the moment, if we can embrace it, then that dis-ease would change to, what else is out there? But I see that we are going to take a little break, and JP, we're going to continue our conversation with JP Sears when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. And I'm just like so engrossed in what you're saying. I'm like, oh, JP, I don't know. This is such a different side of you. I mean, I've seen this side of you before, but it is such a different side of you because now you've experienced this. Have you, I don't know. I don't know if you want to answer. You're an open book. Okay. Have you ever asked anyone to marry you?
No, I haven't.
So this is even more huge.
Yeah. And I'd say, I've been in, what's my longest previous relationship? Probably 4 years, maybe.
You're creepy.
So I think you were going somewhere with that in your mind that I wasn't going. So you probably know me better. But even though I've been in 4-year-long relationships, 2-year-long relationships, I haven't been even close to asking anybody to marry me. So yeah,
because you didn't, you were content with it being the way it was. You loved the companionship, probably.
Yeah.
Or most likely.
Oh, sure.
Without a doubt. But do you think that deep down inside, there's an unlovable part of you that didn't feel that you would ever find the right person?
Yeah. Yes. 100%. In fact, I've spoken those exact words before. If I'm getting vulnerable, like, yeah, I'm afraid I'll be alone. I'm afraid I won't find the right person. Like, and what's wrong with me? All my friends are getting married. But I also think a companion to that with why previous relationships were not the one for me is I didn't like who I was willing to be in those relationships. Like I wasn't called to be a deep enough version of myself and show up at the table. I was able to get away with complacency. I was able to be
that's because you were attracting.
me.
Yeah, you were attracting what you were ready for.
Darn it, Lily, how dare you say other people are my mirrors? I think we're supposed to, at this point, say no, the exes were just unevolved. And they're but you're 100%. That old JP, there's been some rebirths. So, JP of 2 lifetimes ago within this lifetime. Yeah, he wasn't willing to live as vulnerably, as connected from his heart. And one of the things I like about Amber is just how she is. She calls me to a greater version of myself, a deeper version of myself. And that's a perpetual thing. It's not just like, okay, I'll be deep, arrive at this new level of depth, and then I'm done. But it's like, okay, there's infinite potential for depth, and infinity is always bigger than I think it is. So the perpetual evolution into myself, I think, is in my willingness to do it. I'll at least on most days, I'll give myself some credit. That's a beautiful gift that I have in this relationship, that I bring, that I'm called to, that Amber challenges me on. And I think that's that if I was to boil down all the infinite factors of the multidimensionality of our consciousness, I'd say that's why this relationship is the one.
Of course. Well, you have no doubt. And Robert and I, you've never met Robert, but Robert and I have been married for 23 years now. Yeah. And we call each other pile drivers. Have you seen that the pile, the trucks that push the dirt from one side to another? And sometimes we become each other's pile drivers.
Sure.
because we may not like it at the time, but it's in a loving way. If the person doesn't want to do it, the person has to be willing. The other person has to be willing to be brought to that next level.
Yeah.
And that's a great relationship. Many times that fear keeps us from finding the right person. I mean, of not finding that right person. But anyway, here we go, JP. Do you have the chat open?
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. You can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Today's teacher is JP Sears. You can find JP at awakenwithjp.com. He is very solemn today. I love this side of JP because today he's getting ready for a new birth. He is rebirthing himself. And one would say, what? How can you do that? Well, you can. When you start a new life, like he said, you let go, you release what was, and you embrace what is. And that is always, and love the analogy of childbirth and how we could hold on to that baby inside of us. But once that baby comes out, a whole new life, a new opportunity, new gifts and lessons are opening up. And that's what this show is all about. WhenYouNeedAFriend.com, I'm asking you to please go to WhenYouNeedAFriend.com, become a subscriber, and join this movement of responsibility of what is, what could be, not in a resentful way or a judgmental way, but in a curious way. I love that curious student of life that JP always talks about. And when you are a curious student or a child, there is no judgment. It's just what is. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please become a subscriber. It's a two-step process. So once you subscribe, you will get a confirmation email. And once you confirm, you'll get access to my Mind, Body, Spirit Positive Affirmation audio link and my 90-day challenge to self-love ebook. But please go check out my sponsors. If it weren't for them, this show would not happen. So see different ways that you can support my sponsors so that this show can continue to grow. Now, you will also, if you become when you become a subscriber, you will get the show sent to you on your iPhones or your phones or tablets, smartphones or tablets, and we can grow together. So grow with me at whenyouneedafriend.com and also on Instagram at Lillian McDermott, Twitter, Lillian MCD, on Facebook.com/Lillian's Radio Show. Listen on demand on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, and you can call, leave a message, or text me, 407-373-5959. And today, I'm giving away two $20 gift cards for Native Sun. Native Sun is throughout Jacksonville, beautiful locations in Mandarin and Bay Meadows and Jacksonville Beach, and they're ready and offering $20 gift cards to the first two callers after the show. So once the show is complete, the first two callers will get a text from me saying, you won $20 gift card to start restocking your pantry. And today we're talking to JP Sears about rebirthing ourselves. How do you do that? Now that we know what the feeling brings, and JP, thank you so much for being such a friend of the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate you and the whole show being my friend.
Well, because of the show, you are now a 2 million viewed person. I mean, you have everything you do turns to gold. I want a little bit of that to rub off on me, JP. So I'm going to need your help. So here's the thing. Most of us are in resistance of what is. We're in traffic. We're upset about the traffic. Instead of going, maybe I should have left a little earlier, and next time I'll leave a little earlier. But for now, I am going to enjoy whatever is. Maybe I'll listen to a song or watch the traffic flow and be in the part of that flow. But instead, we resist it, right?
Yeah.
And the jerk that cuts us off or whatever. What is? So give us some tips, JP, on when you're going through this rebirthing process, to me, is accepting what is and accepting a new creation.
Absolutely. And, I think accepting what is awesome. It's necessary. And then that what is that we accept, no matter how long it takes us to accept it, eventually we'll have to release that what is that we accepted yesterday. So there, to be practical, when we talk about rebirthing ourself, I'd like to talk about beliefs for a second, because our self can be very abstract. It's like, well, what are we? Well, let's talk about that. And after 1,000 years, we still won't know, but we'll have said a lot. So a lot of us, and by a lot of us, I mean 100% of all people, we identify with our beliefs. Our beliefs, in my opinion, aren't who we are, but they're the versions of not self that we identify with. And hopefully we identify with progressively better and better and better versions of our beliefs, and they get thinner. So taking a look at our beliefs for a second and how we can put some of those to rest and become open to birthing new beliefs, new versions of truth in our life, I'd like to share what I would consider 5 stages in our relationships with beliefs.
Okay.
Slash 5 stages in our relationship with who we think we are. The initial stage, in my opinion, is resistance. So anytime we're looking at a new belief, a new version of ourselves, it's so natural to resist it. Like you say, JP, it's not good to exercise. Like, I'll resist that. It's like, no, that's not what I believe to be true. Or JP, actually a real one for me, it's not good to eat gluten. In my early 20s, I resisted that. It's like, no, we're supposed to eat like 30 servings of grains every day. Of course, you're wrong. So I had a lot of resistance to that.
Sure, because
belief.
you also had done some research in your own right, because you were a personal trainer.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I had resistance, even like this was a truer version of me coming through, like, don't eat gluten, JP. And then, and after that resistance, if it progresses, and hopefully it does, then there's the support stage where now the new belief supports us. Like, wow, this is cool. Like, I am actually supported by not eating gluten. I got past the first stage resistance. Now I'm actually being supported by this belief. And then the third stage is growth, where we're not just supported, but we're actually becoming upgraded and enhanced by the new belief slash new version of ourself. It's like, wow, this child who I was afraid to have, now they're 3 years old, and wow, they're the apple of my eye. Awesome child. I didn't know my life could be this good. Especially by something that scared the life out of me. And then after the growth phase, just like after the apple tree grows its apples, the fall comes, what happens? The apples are done. They're done. The growth phase is over. The tree is done with the apples that season. So this is the phase, the 4th phase, where we're done growing from the belief. But we're attached. We don't want to let the old rotten apples, the old beliefs, fall to the ground and become compost and become something greater. So we hold on to things that are rotting. We hold on because we worked hard to accept what is. We worked hard to accept a new belief, and it served us well. We were supported. We grew, and it might have been for a few weeks. For some, it could have been a few decades, depending on the belief. And then, wow, it's like we're willing to die in order to preserve this belief and our identity to it, even if it's killing us. We're willing to die for it, even if it kills us. And it's not giving us life anymore. It's a rotten apple at this point. Why? Because we've grown. We need something more nourishing. So we're in the attachment phase with the belief. Don't you dare tell me that there's a better way to eat than gluten-free. Gluten-free is where it's at. But 4 stages earlier, it's like, don't tell me to eat and eat gluten-free. That's stupid.
Yes.
But now it's like, that was the religious war I was willing to die for. And then fourth stage, like there's this new religious war, very contrast. And then the fifth stage of our relationships with our beliefs and who we think we are is release. Mm-hmm. Now we're the tree that is let the apples go. We've released them. And that's scary because like the new apples haven't grown yet. We feel like we're a bare branch. We're naked. We might feel empty. And what we don't know is releasing the old beliefs allows something new and nourishing to come about. Those old beliefs become compost if we're willing to unattach from them and release them. And then we get to adopt the next harvest of fruit, the next season. We get to have a more evolved sense of who we are, a more evolved belief. So I like to consider those 5 stages of a relationship we have with our beliefs and who we think we are, so we can get a little context, like, where am I in all this? And I think a great companion to take us through all those stages is just the age-old question, is that so? Mm-hmm. When we look at this is stupid. Oh, is that so?
Yeah, no attachment, no judgment, no, interesting that you would go through these beliefs, because a part of me says, there was a time that they thought the earth was flat, JP.
Absolutely.
They thought the earth was flat, and everybody believed the earth was flat, and people fought for that right to believe the earth was flat. And then we moved on, and there are still people who believe the earth is flat, and I'd love to hear the argument to that. Does it really matter?
Yeah.
It doesn't support whatever it is that your belief is. If you're open to, if you would consider what another belief could be, perhaps maybe our life would grow to that next season. And we're going to continue our conversation with JP Sears when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay. Now, JP, I'm telling you, as you were going through these beliefs, the belief system, it's interesting that I felt the same way about religion. So here's the thing. Follow the golden rule. Do unto others as they would have them to you, right? Or treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
When I was a child, that was what I was taught.
Yeah.
Then as you get older, you realize this person is treating me in a way that I don't want to be treated. Could I possibly be treating people the way they don't want to be treated? So then I changed that to, treat others the way they need. Like, with my kids, they wanted to help me. They would go in and they would help me the way they wanted to help me. But I would say, ask me how you want to help me. And that way I could be helped. So that same thing with religion. When I was younger, I learned about religion. And religion supported me. And then after a while, I felt it divided me.
Sure.
And then that's when I embraced a spirituality.
To me, that's a beautiful, beautiful illustration of, the life cycle of a belief and the life cycle of the lily that was identified with the religious beliefs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that illustrates it beautifully.
Well, and thank you for that acknowledgement. I mean, it's not that I reject or have anything against religions, but I do the breaking down the walls of religion now, where I worship with other denomination, and that's been so freeing for me, because we all want the same thing. We all want, to love and be loved. We all want to be joyful, to be happy. And so as we release, as if we go through these 5 stages of beliefs, at what point, I guess the question is, at what point do we become so open that we release our beliefs? Could that be dangerous too?
Well, in my opinion,
not to know your value.
In my opinion, yes. I think that's being mindless. There's being mindless on one extreme, and then there's being completely closed-minded at the other extreme. And I think the word mindful represents the eye of the hurricane, the place of peace in between, where, I think we have beliefs for a reason. I don't think the reason is to believe our beliefs. And I don't think the reason is to get rid of our capacity to have beliefs. I think the reason is for us to carry beliefs like they were a possession, and put it down. Like I have this red notebook I take notes in, but I don't have it in my hands 24/7 because it doesn't serve me. So I put it down when it just serves me, but it's unwillingness to ever pick it up. It would be like this belief that says never have belief. It's just a belief unto itself.
Oh, JP,
You
we're
can
going to have
text
to
Lillian
start now.
McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. And today's teacher is JP Sears. You can find JP Sears at Awaken with JP. I also want to remind you that at the end of the show, be the first and second caller to call or leave a message at 407-373-5959. And those two people will get one $20 gift card from Native Sun. They want to help you restock your pantry after the storm. And so call 407-373-5959. And JP, I'm glad that you're safe and sound. I know that you guys got some weather up there from Irma as well.
Yes, in Charleston. We were very blessed that it wasn't much. I mean, in my neighborhood, there were some trees down. One house had a tree fall on it. But all things considered, we really lucked out. And I'm curious, where you're at, Lily, how'd you fare?
Well, we were evacuated. I'm in Cape Canaveral, and we were evacuated. And we just got back a day ago. We have power, we have water. We're good. But there's a lot of people that are suffering right now, and that suffering is perpetuating by not accepting what is. And it's that new birth. And I know that blessing comes in different ways. And I did a video about, don't tell me you were blessed because you were spared. I believe blessing comes in different ways.
Sure.
And so I think that we're all being blessed in one way or another. And that rebirth of perhaps maybe losing a home, that rebirth of losing a loved one, that rebirth of so many tragic moments that you could look at, so many. We can look back at this moment and say, I was born at that moment where things, I remember when we downsized, and I looked around at all the stuff, JP, that I had, all the stuff that really didn't matter. And my rebirth of financial materialism, or whatever you want to call it, changed. It was a new belief for me that you talked about those 5 stages. So here we go, as we are rebirthing ourselves. What are some of the things, the key things that we need to know? Because for me, I need to know what I stand for. Because if I don't know what I stand for, I might fall for anything. So what would you say are some of the core values to rebirthing self?
I think arguably, perhaps the most important core value, according to this delusional redhead, is a connection to one's heart and feelings. I don't think our self and our progressive new versions of ourself are confined to our head and our thinking, though that's the place where it's so easy for us to spend a lot of our time and experience life through just our thinking. So when we're connected to our heart and our feelings, that tells us this is me or this isn't me. And it's a pretty simple language. I know for me personally, when something is like true to me or true to like a new version of me, or it's something that's helping to birth me, my heart gets like a light feeling in it. Oftentimes it's excitement as well. Oftentimes a lot of fear as well.
Sure.
But when something is like against me, it's not for who JP is. it feels diminishing, depressing, a little heavy. Even if my mind's like, oh, that's cool, my heart's like, oh, wow. So I think biggest core value is we have to be connected to our heart, because I think that's the principal biofeedback mechanism to who we actually are. It's our connection. But if we're trying to navigate our heads, we're mostly, in my opinion, disconnected from our real self. So we're a little bit lost. We don't know, like, is this supporting me? Like, I don't know who me is. Like, knowing ourselves, I don't think is really a knowing process. I think it's a feeling process. A lot of times people ask me, like, how do I be myself when I don't know who I am? And I say back to them, I don't think being yourself is dependent on knowing who you are. Because knowingness is certainly a faculty of our mind, but being, I think, is much more a faculty of our heart. So a lot, like, we don't need to have a well-defined, written definition of who we are. We don't need to know, and anything we write down is probably small.
Mm-hmm.
But Lily, I also love what you said about we need to know what we stand for. Like,
Mm-hmm.
heck yeah, and feel that. Like, I think we need to get our feelings involved in what we stand for. I made a post a few days ago asking for donations for animals and pets that were, like, dethroned from
Sure.
the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
And like that might be a simple cause, yet it's a cause that really lights me up inside. Like, I feel quite a feeling connection. Like, I really stand for that. Then when I see horrible things happening that I absolutely don't stand for, like the hate crimes that have happened in Charlottesville, it's like, wow, I feel constricted about that, angry about that. And like, that's that feeling feedback is telling me that I don't stand for that. That is not what I stand for.
But you are very aware and in tune with your heart, your spirit. You're very in tune with that. But there are many people that are in tune with their fear.
Yeah.
They're afraid, and that the body might send they're sending the signal, but it's being interpreted in the wrong way. How do we avoid from being fear driven? Because, unless you're an earthworm, there's no way you can birth yourself. But this is probably the closest way, is to rebirth by connecting to your heart. The closer you are to your spirit, the more connected you are to the divine.
Yeah.
Because the divine is in me. So with that in mind, how do we identify if this is coming from fear or if it's coming from love?
Yeah, it's a good question. And to me, that boils down to what the feeling is we get in our heart. And this is super simple. I know it's not complex rocket science, but it's something like, it works for me. So we all know when we're afraid, we constrict. We go into a fetal posture. Like, that's the posture of fear. Fear wants us to become small. Fetal position, protect ourselves. And when something's coming from not fear but love, then I dare say we have the opposite that happens. It's an expansion. So the subtle feelings of our heart are just that. They're subtle. It's not like, oh, am I afraid? Like, okay, am I on the floor in a fetal position? No, not. No, it's a subtle energy. But I think we can train ourselves to become more sensitive to the subtleness of our fear response when we feel constricted and heavy in our heart. Mm-hmm. And then we also become better trained to feel and acknowledge when we feel expansive in our heart, like, oh, wow, this idea, this decision, this idea to stand for, it feels expansive. Mm-hmm. So we can get in tune with that. And I think, like any skill, the skill is inherently inside of us, but developing the skill is really about getting in touch with the brilliance that's already there with the skill. So that's why with any skill, we train it. We don't really get good at what we don't do. It's almost a universal phenomenon. So the more we practice feeling our feelings, and I'm not even talking about emotions at this point. I'm talking about the the very subtle physical feelings we get in our heart center. What is the feeling reaction I get to fear? What is the feeling reaction I get to love? What is the feeling reaction I get when I'm looking at going to work? What's the feeling reaction I get when I'm looking at exercising? Like, what is it? We can train ourselves to get better at feeling it by paying attention to it.
Very good. Very good. JP, we're going to have a little bit of conversation after the show, but and we're going to record it and put it on YouTube, but I'm always grateful for you coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us on the Lillian McDermott radio show. And I'm looking forward to learning more about your new rebirth.
Thank you, Lily. I appreciate you having me on, sister.
Yes. And as always, remember, I will be right here waiting for you. So get ready to call 407-373-5959 or text me 407-373-5959, and you will get a $20 gift card, first and second caller. And remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job, JP. Very good. So let's see where our mics are off. Now, this is a really timely conversation. I just wrote an article called Be Who You Say You Are.
Oh, nice.
I didn't even think of it as you were talking. I'm like, this article that I talked about on Wednesday. Well, it was kind of like talking about it on Wednesday because my guest, my editor for Florida Today, he did not get the message that we were back on the air. And so he was in the middle of taking off his shutters off his house. And I'm texting him going, do you have Zoom? Are you ready to go? And bless his heart, he was mortified because he just didn't understand that we were back on the air. And but yeah, it was devastating. Not as devastating as St. Thomas and Anguilla and all these other places. But yes, we were hit pretty hard.
Yeah, I know you were. It's and there is, I would call it a humble helplessness that these hurricanes bring up in me. And hurricanes used to be nothing other than a story on the news to me. But now I live in Charleston, and last year I evacuated for Hurricane Matthew, and luckily it wasn't at all a direct hit. And luckily, at least for me, Hurricane Irma this year, not even close to a direct hit. But still, there is this, like, I would call it a healthy sense of insignificance that comes up in me, where I really re-acknowledge the vastness of the world and the power of the world, and how much there is a power greater than myself, whether that power is the hurricane, Mother Nature, the earth, God. It's just like, yes, that's all a power greater than me.
Yeah.
So
I can see in the Bible how they call it the wrath of God, because you can interpret that as a curse, you can interpret it as a punishment, but the reality is it's nature. And I my son, who's a comedian, because I told him, I said, I told him that I think that God just raised the canopy in Florida. I don't know if you're familiar with that terminology where people come in and they trim the trees and they're much higher. And so my son sends me a text and he said, he goes, well, maybe we should do a bumper sticker that says, God is my co-pilot and Jesus is my gardener. That's how he thinks. He's got a little bit of me in him. But the article that I wrote, I was saying, be who you say you are, was very reminiscent of what you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, as evolved as you are, as enlightened as you are, I know, roll your eyes, go ahead, get it over the way, that you were still holding yourself back to the JP you are today.
Yeah. I think there's no question about that. And when I look at self-realization as a journey, not a destination, I think a lot of us, in fact, I'll own it, I like to talk about it's a journey, not a destination, but then I try to make it a destination, even though I have that talk. So I would guess, like, as you know, I feel like I'm in a great place in life. I feel like I'm pretty connected to me. I feel like I'm pretty connected to what's beyond me. And I would guess in 10 years, my future self will look back and say, like, whoa, JP was
just the beginning,
really holding himself back. Because the beautiful part is, self-evolution, in my opinion, it's an infinite journey. We can always become, more is just like a weird word to use, but we can always become more and more expansive. So yeah, I think the goal is to have our future self look back and say, yeah, he or she was playing it small, and I'm grateful for what they did. Yeah. It helped me be who I am today. And then that future self looks to its future self and says, oh yeah, now I'm being looked back on and they think I'm small.
Yeah, isn't that the goal, is to be a better you the day after? Every day be the better you. And when my husband and I were married 20 years, our kids got together, because our kids are grown. Our youngest now is 27, but they got together and they cooked us. They prepared a meal, and they brought out the video of our wedding.
Oh, I bet that was
it had been a while, because Robert and I normally watched, when we were first married, watched the video every year, and we'd reminisce and all that. But then 5 years would go by. We haven't seen the video in a while, so let's pull it out. And so a long time had gone by. I think the last time, it was prior to doing the radio show, JP. And as you know, and I've shared with you privately and through the radio, that when I was about a year after starting my radio show, that's when I really started focusing on personal growth, not just reading it from Wayne Dyer, not just attending conferences, but actually applying it in a experiential way.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that video. So that was about maybe 2-3 years after I had started the show. And I drove home and I was kind of quiet. I was looking at that woman that got married, that young girl. I was 31 when I got married. The second time, I was 21 when I got married. So 10 years had gone by, not since my divorce. I had been single for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I said to my husband, I go, I didn't recognize me. If somebody would have said to me, that's you, I would have gone, no way.
Yeah, that is crazy cool, in my opinion.
Just I hope you video record your wedding.
Yeah, actually, we do have videographers coming to it. Yeah.
When are you getting married, by the way? When are you going to do this?
So the exact date isn't set yet. Hopefully it will be soon. We've got a beautiful venue that we want. So it's just securing the venue, then everything also fall in place. But it's looking like it'll be May 2018 in Santa Cruz, California, where Amber's, that's where she grew up. Her mom and dad and sister are there. So that it just, her and I were on that exact wavelength before we even talked about it. We were on, I think it was the plane leaving Montana when we had I had a chance to have our first conversation about what is this wedding going to be, and I forget who asked who first, but we both were thinking Santa Cruz. So that's what we're going to do.
My niece and her husband got married in California. I'm trying to remember the name of Self-Realization.
Fellowship. Yeah. SRF.
It was, I'm trying to remember but it was a beautiful garden. Where
they have a garden in Encinitas, and then they also have one in the LA area.
I think it's, what is the name of the guru that is from there then?
Paramahansa Yogananda.
Yogananda, that's it. Yeah. And he has the house that Yogananda lived is on the top of the little hill area.
Yeah.
I think he's actually buried there.
Yeah, and was this cliffside by the ocean or not by the ocean?
I don't remember seeing an ocean, but there was an ocean close by.
Okay, it was probably Encinitas, but anyway, the exact location doesn't matter.
Where is Encinitas? Where is it?
It's North County, San Diego.
I'll have to think. I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on this one. It's not important, but I know how beautiful that area is, so I can imagine why you want to be there. Yeah. But JP, I'm just really excited for you, and
thank you.
I've seen you at different stages, and I know that people know you much more than I do, and but I just want to acknowledge you for detaching from the thought that you would never find the person that was your soulmate.
Yeah, I appreciate you acknowledging that. That helps me have appreciation for that. That was a very comfortable, lonely, a lot of comfort in the loneliness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very comforting, lonely, limiting thought.
So what would your advice be to someone who is comfortable in their loneliness and they're in a relationship that they know is not the one for them?
Yeah, I mean, the variable there is if they know it's not the one for them. I know other people are in a place where it's like, well, I'm not sure. Is it? So that being a different conversation. And I mean, I'm a cliff jumper. If I know it's not the one, if someone knows it's not the one, you can try to climb down the cliff gradually, and that'll suck. Or you can jump off the cliff and have the daylight scared out of you, have life as you know it change, have your the complacency field that you live in where you are there, I am here, we have a lot of distance between us, but it's really predictable. So this complacency has become lukewarm water that we feel comfortable in. You'd have all that change. If you take the jump off the cliff of making the change that needs to be made. So yeah, my personal choice in that situation is jump off the cliff.
Jump off the cliff. I love the fact that you have jumped off the cliff. You didn't have to wait 4 years to know that this was or was not the right person. You know when you know. And until you know when you know, you don't know what it feels like. And you don't know it's possible or that it could happen. And I'm just grateful that it has happened to you. Amber is a beautiful, how could you not? She is a beautiful woman. My God. I mean, you're just slumming it, guy. It's like, looks don't matter, right? Yes, they do. But at the same time, the spirit is what attracts you. Yeah. And the fact that you attracted someone who is raising you to a new level says a lot about you. That you were ready to detach from the belief that you were no longer, that you were going to be a bachelor for the rest of your life and not have kids. And by the way, I have to say this before we go. Your food video of your raw cucumber pizza, hilarious.
Did you try the recipe yet, Lillian? It tastes just like the real thing. I appreciate you watching that. I had a blast with that. And
how long did it take you to do that one with a straight face?
That one, it was relatively quick, but it was so much fun. And
Are you really gonna do a food channel, or is that just that one time thing?
Part of that was just the language to make the video seem like it's a food show, but those kind of like the raw vegan cooking recipe videos, I will do those from time to time. Like I've got, in my opinion, an exciting one planned for Thanksgiving.
Oh God, I can only imagine. So you're thinking that far in advance, huh?
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know how often those raw vegan cooking show videos will be published on my channel, but just when they naturally come up in the creative flow, I'll go with it.
And before we go, you're going to do some stand-up comedy. Where are you going to be at, and what are those dates?
Yeah, the end of November. I think it's the last 3 days of November, and Boston, Brooklyn, and Washington D.C. is where those shows will be, and they're selling really well. There are some tickets still available, but the good news is they're selling fast. I'm very happy about that, and tickets are available on my website, awakenwithjp.com/events. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having fun with people.
Very good. I really do believe this is going to be very successful for you. And I wish you were going to be coming to Florida. Maybe I'll fly up to one of those places. Who knows?
Yeah. I think it'll just be a matter of time before Florida's back on the schedule.
Yeah, let me know. And so, do we pick our next topic now?
Maybe we do that.
Yes, because that works really well.
Yeah, so, I think you're right.
So the next the time you come on, it'll probably be right. Let me see. It's August, September, October, November. So it'll be around November. Will that be a good date?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we've done stepping out of your comfort zone. This new rebirthing thing. How about stepping into the holidays as a spiritual person, celebrating the holidays spiritually?
I love it.
Yeah. Do you really?
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of that is being true to ourselves in our holiday celebrations. What are the traditions that work for me, but what are the ones that I need to bring to the table? And of course, there's the family connections. And if you think you're enlightened, go spend a day with your family kind of thing too. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So we got the topic for next time, and I'm looking forward to, if there's anything I can do to help support you in this walk that you're taking, I'm right here waiting for you.
Yeah, I know you always are, Lily. I appreciate you so much, sister. And I'm glad all is well with you. Yeah. Here we are, calm after the storm. Yes. Let's enjoy the calm.
Exactly. And enjoy the elation of your rebirth.
Yeah, thank you.
And don't eat the plasma.
They say there's a lot of immune properties in that.
Yeah, but you get that from your shirts anyway.
That's true.
Okay, JP.
All the medicinal value of amniotic fluid in these
There
shirts.
You go. You got to find something. You got to have to do one of these shirts AF as a friend.
I like that.
Okay. Okay, JP. Take care.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye for now.
Bye.